Hey everybody, this is Perch, and we're doing a comic comparison for WildCATS. In this case, it's 1992's WildCATS. This was Image when it first began, when Malibu was still kind of part of the picture. And we're looking at 2022's WildCATS, Matt Rosenberg, DC, kind of relaunching the book as part of Dawn of DC. I don't know. It's an ongoing series, but maybe it's not. No, I take it back. It's a limited series. I mean, they're all limited series. It's hard to tell anymore. You know, some news sites said it was going to be an ongoing series. It says limited series on the cover. I have no idea anymore. Maybe it's one of those, it's a limited series, but they're hoping if you buy it, it will be an ongoing series, but maybe it's not. Nobody knows. Anyway, sorry, not to be too, it has nothing to do with the comics. Just, I'm tired of this absolutely crap, comic system that the publishers keep doing. Anyway, let's take a look at the covers here. WildCATS 92 versus 2002, as I mentioned. Now, the one in 92, Jim Lee, Brandon Choi were the writers. Jim Lee was a penciler. Scott Williams was inker. Obviously, Williams was a frequent collaborator with Lee. Joe Rosas was a colorist. $1.95 cover price. Now, thanks to the amazing inflation that we've got right now, this would be $4.14. So this is one of those rare occurrences where the comics several years ago, in this case 30 years ago, technically cost more than the comic today, because today's WildCATS number one in 2022 is $3.99. It's a full 15 cents cheaper thanks to inflation. Thank you, whichever president you don't like. Anyway, the new one in 2022 is written, as I said, by Matt Rosenberg. Stefan Segovia is the penciler and inker. Elmer Santos is a colorist. And what I want you to look at as we go through this book, we'll hit the cover here, and we're going to see the different pages, is there is, in addition to the comic, just the writing, and I'm not going to review, this isn't, the intent is not to review the comic, so I'm not going to go through the plot here. But what I am going to draw your attention to is kind of the art and the storytelling. And what you'll notice is in the 92 version, there's a lot of pen and ink detail work in the panels to kind of flesh out what's going on. And the 2022 version, a lot of that heavy lifting is done by the colorist. And you'll kind of see the differences here in storytelling as we go. So there's a cover, obviously, to the two books. The 92 version, pretty iconic in a lot of ways. There were t-shirts made of this. It was a big deal. And I mean, the fact that stores ordered an absolute crap ton of them, hoping to get another X-Men number one, 6 million copy sold approach. It didn't get anywhere close to that, but still very, very high numbers, as you'll see in a minute. WildCATS, a little bit more of a soft kind of painted view. Obviously it's a different team. So let's go through it. First page, right off the bat, the 2022 version's kicking its ass because we get a big black and white, almost looks like a photocopy of the credits, and a lot, a little letter by Jim Lee. I joke. But anyway, you'll notice kind of right out the gate as we get into the actual comics, the page and detail work on the left is a lot of pen and ink, a lot of shade, a lot of cross hatching, a lot just of complexity and blowing snow and ice, etc. And on the right, if you look at what's drawn versus what's the coloring that's going on in the background, you'll notice a pretty significant difference into the complexity of these images. Now, both comics, I don't want to say start out with action, because there's a lot of characters talking back and forth. One of the other themes you're going to see as we get through this book is there is a lot more dialogue in 92. I know the commentary is in current comic books, people are talking all the time. Way more talking in the 92 version. The 2022 comic certainly has dialogue as well. A little bit going on here. We see a character that's one of the main characters in the book in an alley, homeless, with vomit on himself. We get in the 2022 version, again, once you see it, you can't not see it. That the fact that the backgrounds are a lot of colors and gradients and kind of softing blur. And the one on the, I've lost track here. The 2022 version is that. The 1992 version, you got, people laying in the alley, tons and tons of detail work into just trash going on. And we get a little bit of kind of action here as basically homeless man getting bum rushed action. Whereas the one on the right, we've got some kind of just same guy, but some kind of internal boardroom dialogue and back and forth. So both comics are kind of introducing the characters to us. The one on the left is doing it in kind of very 90s style. You know, the characters are coming together. The one on the right, we're dropped into all these characters already know each other, and we're kind of, feeding them out to the audience. This is a very different way of storytelling. But plenty of dialogue. We get boardrooms on the left. We get bars on the right. We get, a lot of kind of supernatural action as we're getting into Void and some of the stuff going on there. On the right, we're getting Grifter, and we learn a little bit about the brother. We get some text kind of, exposition going on. Whereas the original one in 92 had a lot of the characters talking to each other. The exposition is done through dialogue. The one on the right, we get a little bit of, memory or thought, not thought bubbles, but thought dialogue going on as we get into the one on the left. I mean, clearly the poses, the characters, everything else. There's a lot of dynamic action going on. The characters are all standing as though they're going to be printed on a T-shirt. The one on the right, we get a lot more mood. People having coffee, people kind of relaxing. You get just a lot more. It isn't until about page 15 that we get both a major villain introduced in the 92 WildCATS, and we get an action mission going on in the 2022 version. But, poor old Fairchild looks bored with this entire thing. Again, I mean, this is the thing to really capture. If you're, we often talk about storytelling between the 90s and today. The thing to really see here is the detail work. It's pen and ink on the left. It's colors, gradients, and kind of soft tones and purplish hues and other things on the right. Taking nothing away from the artist. The art is fine on the right. It looks good. But you see a lot more heavy lifting going on with the coloring. A lot more as you go from page to page. You hear this introduction of Voodoo. You're not, once you get done staring at her ass, you see speed lines going on around the characters. You see the bar has some shading and some windows drawn in. You get a lot of little pieces there. On the right, you're getting Fairchild leaping into action, and you're getting certainly foreground illustration, but the back is kind of soft, muted tones and just a very different approach of these two comics. So as it goes in, you're getting some action kind of both places. The WildCATS of 2022 definitely does have some action. Now, the one on the right, you got, Grifter jumping over, let alone, they're doing a little bit different things. Grifter's dialogue has a little torn page look. They're using the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns television anchor woman there. On the right, you're getting this brief encounter of Green Arrow. He shows up for, 3 panels there as they make their escape, but just a significant difference in the action. And this chalks up to personal preference, and I mean, you have to go with that. So on the left, you're getting a lot of speed lines, you're getting a lot of characters leaping around, jumping, heavy detail, kind of chaos in the panel work. When Grifter does shoot one of the villains, they go to the stark white background to kind of really pop what's going on the panel with the violence. And on the right, again, they're doing it with kind of gradients and it's not a lens flare, but it's definitely Photoshop elements is going on the right. So the one on the left, as we've seen, has a couple double page spreads. Got a lot of kind of team jumping in dynamics. When you're looking at something from Jim Lee, it's always tough to say, yeah, kind of ignore all that cool foreground work and look at the background. But the background is really where the story is told. Now, the WildCATS 2022 wraps up here with 22 pages. The one from 92 goes on a little bit longer. Did have a couple double page spreads that were going on, but 26 pages or so for that one. Again, a lot of things going on with the panel work, with the images, with the characters. Very few of the panels are stark, meaning there's no backgrounds, just a blank white or blank color. And when it is, it certainly seems intentional. So there's your comic, in effect. Those are 2. And you see a pretty significant difference. And this is not even getting into the storytelling, what's going on. The one from the 90s, as I said, it has a very kind of classical 90s bringing together a superhero team. They've got some villains. You're kind of, the train is moving and racing down the hill. The one on the right from 2022, the modern one, definitely more measured. In this instance, the action is slowly kind of coming to the page there for you, and that's what's happening. So let's summarize kind of what's going on. So 26 pages for the 92 version, 22 pages for the 2002 version. The 92 had 2 double page spreads, so depending on how you count, that could be a little different. 2 variants-ish For WildCATS in 92, there's a gold edition, there's a regular edition. There are also some other things they did, but really weren't variants. They were what I call marketplace variants, meaning there was one that was built for more of the newsstand versus direct market in terms of the paper quality and other things going on. 8+ variants, there's some retailer exclusives going on with the 2022 version. Different penciler and inker, Jim Lee, Scott Williams. It's a really good combo, has been for a long time. Same penciler and inker, and unless I'm completely mistaken, it was digital work for the 2022 version, which in theory should mean that the backgrounds could be more detailed because you could use some of those tools, but didn't. So now let's get to the sales. In 92, and I'm giving you a real exact number here, this is what's been reported, although undoubtedly there's a few extra copies out there. People had stated that WildCATS sold about 1.8 to 1.9 million copies sold. There's comments that it beat Spawn. I can't back that up. I mean, people said that, it's common knowledge, but the number that I have officially reported from what I see is 1,481,000 copies sold, basically. Close to 1.5. That's the number. Now, are there secret comics out there, other sources? Probably, but that's what I've got. The 2022 version, it's early to tell, but the number appears to be about 60,000, maybe. So there's, again, some little Diamond's not clearly reporting, so I have to go to a different source, more direct to the publisher to get this number. And it bounces around a little bit. So take both of these with a grain of salt. About 1.5 million for 92, about 60,000 for 2022, and that's kind of what we've got. Although, if the numbers adjust, I'll update the description of this video, and we'll see how it goes for both. The original WildCATS is absolutely the quintessential 90s book. It read that way, the storytelling was that way, the art was that way, definitely fit that style. The 2022 version is also a good indicator of DC's current state. It's not really indicative of what Marvel and indie comics are doing in 2022, but it does read like a DC book. It absolutely feels more like that than kind of your classic WildCATS book. Now, there's elements of it that has that kind of joining the action, but if you read both titles, there's just a different narrative flow to both. And whereas the one kind of really prioritized the action, the WildCATS of 2022 is taking more of its time, which is kind of a tragedy. If it's a limited series, it doesn't have that time. The original WildCATS had a lot of issues and a lot of volumes when all was said and done. So, if it's a limited series, it really can't be screwed around this way. In 92, WildCATS was a key part of the start of the Image, the indie era. This new comic, this new WildCATS, will be a part of DC's Dawn of DC initiative, in case they get bored of it, and they do seem to. Warren Ellis's WildCATS has pretty much been memory hold for a variety of reasons that have more to, beyond just that DC's distancing itself from Warren Ellis. That one, it was sent into a kind of a void, no pun intended, long before it even wrapped up. As I mentioned before, the assumption is that current comics are more wordy, but there's far more dialogue in the 92 WildCATS comic, a lot more. But a big part of that was the storytelling and introducing the characters and kind of moving the story along was told through dialogue. And so it's interesting to kind of see that as one of those myth breakers. The separation pencil inker, as well as a traditional colorist, helps the 92 comic pop off the page far more dramatically. And that's obviously, it's my opinion. Taking nothing away from the 2022 version. There's elements that are fine there, but my heart is with the 92 version. I think the art really jumps off the page. You get those kind of very crisp pencils and inks. You get the color that's very pop art looking like. It does not have the soft kind of gradient, fuzzy backgrounds or anything else. It feels very sharp. It feels very dynamic. That's where my heart lands. I understand, there's different people, different tastes, but in my mind, the 92 version just really fits comic book, whereas the 2022 version feels more like webcomic, feels more like kind of Photoshop art, which is just, again, it's a personal preference, but you do definitely see a huge impact. If you didn't see it, rewind the video and look again. It's there. As I said, the way to look at it is your background and detail work. Do you want it illustration or do you want coloring? 92 version, illustration filled in the backgrounds. In the 2022 version, the colorist filled in the background. So this is a big difference in style. Anyway, there you go. WildCATS original, WildCATS today. I would say let me know which one you enjoy in the comments below, but I'm pretty sure my audience is pretty, their heart's pretty solidly in the 92 version. But all the same, hopefully you saw some of these differences, drew some additional thoughts to your mind. It's fascinating to look at comics side by side like this. So let me know your thoughts. Like and subscribe, of course, introduce to a friend, let people know, get their opinions on what's going on when they talk about how comics have changed. This series, this playlist of comic comparison is a great intro so they could just see for themselves. Isn't telling them what's better or what's worse. They can just see it on the video screen right there, make their own decision. Anyway, thanks for watching.